Hello friends, welcome to Knowledge House. Right now we'll be looking into today's The Hindu newspaper that is of date 20th of August 2018. So as usual, we'll be looking only into articles that are important from a UPSC and various other competitive exams perspective. So let's start. I welcome you all to this video. The first article is regarding the old GDP data only a draft. So there was a confusion recently because the ministry uploaded a report prepared by the Committee on Real Sector Statistics that contained a chapter presenting various approaches to reconciling the new series of GDP data with the old. But the government on Saturday, that is not Saturday, on Sunday, clarified that the bank series GDP data purportedly released by it was just a draft, that is it will be used only for calculating methods, and the Ministry of Statistics and the program implementation would announce the final results later. The methodology, as also the series of using methodology, will be worked out using the suggestions made by the committee on the real sector and all other suggestions that comes up in the consultancy process. So this exercise will be then considered in the advisory committee on the national account statistics and subsequently the national statistical commission. Please have a look at what exactly this is. So is it a permanent or is it something related to finance commission? Please have a look at it. That's all important about this article. Moving on to the next one, and it is regarding the RTI. So give paid Ariwalan the remission data. That's what the Central Information Commission has said. The right of the appellant to know the rules has no impact on the judicial verdict. That's what Chief Information Commissioner Yashovardhan Azad has said. So the Central Information Commission has directed the Union Ministry of Home Affairs to provide the copies of all orders passed by the Union government from January 2010 to December 31st of December 2015. That is December 31st of 2015, granting remission to various prisoners across the country to AG Perarivalan, who is one of the convicts undergoing life imprisonment in the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case. I'll repeat the statement once again. Central Information Commission directed the Home Ministry to provide the copies of all orders passed by the Union government from January 2010 to December 2015, granting remission to various prisoners to this guy, that is Perarivalan, who is a convict in Rajiv Gandhi assassination case. So Perarivalan had sought to know whether any set of rules governing the provisions of Articles 72 and 73 of the Constitution of India, as well as those under the Section 432 and 435 of the CRPC, were framed by the government in compliance with the decision of the Supreme Court in the Union of India versus Sriharan alias Murugan and others case. So referring to the denial of the Central Information Commission, referring to the denial of the information, CIC said the public information officer has failed to apply his mind and sought a blanket refuge under the guise of matter being sub judice. And it is a well settled matter that mere pendency of a matter before a court does not render all information all information espousing the matter are exempted under the RTI. So the thing to be noted here is, just because of the case that it is a matter that is pending before any court, it also comes under the RTI. Just because it is pending, you cannot deny that particular information to an applicant. That's what this article says. And since this is about RTI, please look into what are the recent amendments that are that the central government has proposed, and also how is this going to impact the overall performance of this particular act and various other things. And also here Article 72 is mentioned, Article 73 is mentioned, then for sections of CRPC is also mentioned. So Article 72, it deals with the power of the president to grant pardons and etc., to suspend, remit and commute sentences. Article 73, it is about the extent of the executive power of the union, and it also mentions that at certain situations the parliament can make laws for certain states regarding the executive powers and functions of that state. And section 432 of the CRPC is the power to suspend or remit sentences. That is, whenever an application is made to the appropriate governor, that is appropriate government, not governor, appropriate government, for the suspension or remission of a sentence, the appropriate government may require the presiding judge of the court before or by which the conviction was confirmed, and to state his opinion whether the application should be granted or refused. So at certain cases, state government has the power to suspend or remit sentences. That is what this section indirectly means. I use the word indirectly because the government has to consult the judge. That's the case. And section 435 of the CRPC is also under question. So it deals with the state government to act after consultation with the central government in certain cases. So in section 432, it was regarding the consultation with the judge that presided that particular case, that confirmed that particular case, that is confirmed the verdict of that particular case. And section 435 is regarding consultation with the central government in certain cases. So that's all important about this particular article. We are moving on to the next one. It is regarding the the half of the farm households are indebted. That's what the NABARD study has said. And more than half of the agricultural that is, more than half of the agricultural households in the country have outstanding debt, and their average outstanding debt is almost as high as the average annual income of all households. That's what the recent survey of the NABARD has said. And other major inferences from there, this survey includes, uh, among other major things, NABARD surveyed the incidence of indebtedness, the proportion of households reporting outstanding debt. So incidence of indebtedness as per the survey is 52.5%. So what does this incidence of indebtedness means? It is the proportion of households reporting outstanding debt. So only as per the survey, only 52.5% of the agricultural households and 42.8% of the non-agricultural households comes under this incidence, have reported. That is, incidence is 52 and 42. 52 is for agricultural and 42 is for non-agricultural. And the average amount of outstanding debt for indebted agricultural or household is around 1,04,602 rupees. Outstanding debt for indebted non-agricultural houses is 76,000 rupees. And 43.5% of agricultural households reported to have borrowed any money from some other sources other than banks. And 60% of uh, agricultural households borrowed from institutional sources alone, and also 30% of borrowed from only from informal sources, and 9.2% agricultural households borrowed from both the sources. So these are some of the statistics that we can note from the study of the NABARD. And also another thing to be noticed is Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka topped the list with over 70% of indebted families. This is really disappointing in one end, but at the same time, there are some positive things to be noted from this particular portion. So that's all important about this particular article. Moving on, before concluding this, let me say one thing. Because these statistics, it is better to have a slight understanding regarding the statistics, because it will help you to formulate better points while writing your essay and other answers. So that's all about that particular article. Moving on to the next one. India building a new fighter jet. So the first flight of the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, that is AMCA, it is expected in 2032. So the AMCA will feature the geometric stealth and will initially fly with a 2GE414 engine. Once we develop our own engine, it can be replaced with that. We expect the first flight to be in 2032. That's what the defense source has said. And there are two major military ways for making a military platform stealthier. One is the geometric stealth and the other one is material stealth. In geometric stealth, the shape of the aircraft is designed at such angles so as to deflect away the maximum radar waves, thereby minimizing the radar cross-section. In material stealth, the radar absorbing materials are used in making the aircraft which will absorb the radio waves, thus reducing the radar footprint. So the AMCA, that is AMCA, that is Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, will be initially based on geometric stealth, and we can look into material stealth at the later stage. That's what defense source has said. Apart from the technologies developed from the LCA project, that is Light Combat Aircraft project, the new fighter program is important as technologies coming in through will flow into other projects as well. That's what the defense expert has said. So that's all important about this particular article. So have a please remember these things, that is material stealth and geometric stealth. That's all important about this article. Moving on to the foreign affairs part of today's news. Imran Khan blames previous government for Pakistan's high debt burden. So Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan on Sunday lashed out at the previous government for the current debt level, which has risen to rupees 28 trillion, saying that the country has not been so indebted in its entire history. And Imran Khan also said, on one hand, we are so indebted, and on the other hand, our HDI ranking is very poor. He pointed out that Pakistan is among the five worst countries in terms of infant mortality rate, and so also nearly 45% of the country's children are suffering from stunting. They are not getting proper nutrition. They are automatically left behind. So what must their parents go through seeing their children in such state? That's what he asked. So that's all important about this particular article. Moving on to the next one, it is regarding the Sri Lanka. Rajapaksa keen on a third term. So Sri Lanka's former president Mahinda Rajapaksa, who served two consecutive terms in office from 2005 to 2015, appears to be keen on a third term, despite there is a legislation that bars him from contesting. Among other things, the 19th Amendment to Sri Lanka's constitution, passed 3 months after Mr. Rajapaksa was unseated from his office, revived a clause in the 1978 constitution that said no person who has been twice elected for the office of the president by the people shall be qualified thereafter to be elected to such office by the people. In effect, the provision reversed the Rajapaksa era legislation in the 18th Amendment. So right now, this man is currently under investigation for alleged murder and large-scale corruption. So that's all important about this. Moving on to the next one. Coming to the economy part of today's newspaper, India will be back on 7.5 plus growth track. That's what former Chief Economic Advisor Arvind Mirvani has said. So India's economic growth seems to be back on a recovery, and the country will be on a firm 7.5 plus growth track. That's what Arvind Mirvani has said. Domestically, the main risk to macro stability is politically driven government consumption spending at the cost of investment and fiscal prudence. So I'll repeat the statement once again. Domestically, the main risk to macro stability is the politically driven government consumption spending at the cost of investment and fiscal prudence. If this temptation is resisted, the country will be back on a firm 7.5 plus growth track. That's what he has said. And the US China tariff war, however, provides an opportunity to increase India's export to the US and attract labor intensive elements of the global supply chain unsettled by the higher China risk to India. That's what he observed. So that's all important about this particular article. And recently there was also a Confederation of Indian Industry study, that is the CIA study, saying that the same, that is the trade war is if it is properly leveraged, will be a good boost for the Indian exports. So that's all important about that. Moving on to the next one. Current account deficit to widen to 2.5% of GDP. That's what Moody's economist has said. So India's current account deficit CAD will widen to 2.5% of GDP in the current fiscal due to the higher oil prices that has been accentuated by rupee depreciation. That's what the expert has said. And the net oil imports accounted for 2.6% of GDP in the fiscal year 17-18 and will increase further in the fiscal year 2019. So a key driver has been the gradual US Fed monetary policy tightening, which has resulted in the dollar appreciating against many currencies globally. However, the rupee's weaknesses also reflects India's widening current account deficit as higher world oil prices have pushed up import cost. On the negative side, it will increase the oil import bill, leading to the higher current account deficit. Also, costly oil import would seep into the economy via higher inflation, make infra and other projects which have a large import content expensive, and will make critical important defense and items and related items more expensive. That's what the expert has said. So moving on to the next one. Peak April July power deficit at 0.9%. So India is still not power surplus as envisaged because Peak power deficit in April July was 0.9%, while overall electricity deficit stood at 0.6 during the 4-month period this fiscal. As much as 170.76 GHz was supplied during the peak hours against the demand of 172.38 gigawatts in April July this fiscal year. That's what Central Electrical Authority has shown in their data. So last year CEA, that is Central Electrical Authority, had also projected that India would become a power surplus nation in its LGBR. All India power supply position indicates that the country is likely to have a peak surplus of 6.8 and the energy surplus of 8.8 in this in the coming year. So that's all important about this particular article. Moving on to the next one. Rupee depreciation is due to dollars gains rather than the inherent weakness. So you all must be aware that Indian rupee is an all-time low against the dollar. That is, it has breached the 70% mark recently, and so I hope you guys are aware of the how this currency fluctuation happens. So because we even though you know it can be fixed, there are certain countries that have fixed their exchange rate with certain other currencies, and we follow and we leave it to the international market. So in the international market, that is international currency market, the demand and supply equation defines the rate of, that is the value of particular currency against the other. So this particular article says that while the rupee is Asia's worst performing currency so far this year, the depreciation is largely owing to the dollar strengthening rather than any inherent weaknesses in the domestic unit. That's what an expert has said. While the Indian rupee is the worst performing in the region, down about 8.5 percentage this year, it compares with the other emerging markets such as Russia, it was down 13%, Brazil down to 14%, and Argentina down to an horrible 37%, and Turkey down to 42% for this year. That's what has that particular expert has said. And the rupee has been on a downtrend. The rupee has been on a downtrend amid global uncertainties and concerns over inflation. So this weakness is more from the dollar strengthening rather than the inherent rupee weakness. So we feel, given the supply and demand situation, the crude oil prices may remain in the trading range, only driven by in the short term by the new news of supply disruption of any kind. Global demand so far remains well aligned to the availability of supply as of now. So you might have noticed that it was as a consequence, I won't say consequence, it was just after we analyzed the news regarding the spat between the Turkey's President Erdogan and US President Donald Trump. It was the next day that rupee breached the 70 mark. So so I think you have gained some point regarding that, regarding the whole equation of this currency market. So that's all important about this. The next article is regarding the US tech gains. That is, the US tech giants plan to fight India's data localization plans. The US trade groups representing companies such as Amazon, American Express, Microsoft have opposed India's push to store data locally. So this comes at an aftermath of the Justice B.N. Srikrishna Committee report regarding the privacy, regarding the data related, that is the private data related report. So please revise that particular portion once we finish analyzing this news. So so the US trade groups have opposed India's push to store data locally. The push comes amid rising global efforts to protect the user data, but is one is one that could hit the planned investment by these firms in Indian market, where the companies currently have limited data storage. The issue is important enough to be discussed in the US India trade level. That's what a global policy expert has said. And the stricter localization norms would help India get easier access to data while conducting investigations, but critics say that it could lead to increased government demands for data access. Technology firms worry the mandate would hurt their planned investment by raising costs related to setting up new local data centers. So, the main government committee on data privacy last month proposed a draft law recommending restrictions on the data flows and proposing that all critical personal data should be processed only within the country. That's what Sri Krishna committee reported. That is Justice B N Sri Krishna committee recommended, and it would be also left to the government to define what qualifies as such data. So that's all important about today's news, and we have finished going through today's the Hindu newspaper. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you like this video, please hit the like button and do share it with your friends. That's one way you can support us, and you can also follow us on Telegram, and you can also visit our blog, that is www.knowledgehouse.co, and please do subscribe our channel. We'll be coming with more interesting and compelling videos, so please do subscribe our channel so that you won't miss any updates from us. And if you wish to support us, you can send your donations to this particular Paytm number that is shown on the screen. And another way you can support, just I mentioned before, share this video as much as possible. No, not only this video, share our the knowledge house videos as much as possible. So thank you very much once again for watching this video. Have a nice day.